Hi, I'm Sage Rountree, and I want to share something with you that might just change how you think about teaching yoga forever. Most of us are trying to include everyone in our yoga classes, and that impossible goal is crushing our confidence and exhausting our planning time. What if I told you there's a better way? What if, instead of trying to include everyone, we focused on including almost everyone? I know that sounds like I'm asking you to lower your standards, but stick with me. This one word, almost, is going to free you from the planning confidence cycle that's keeping you up at night. You know the cycle I'm talking about. You spend hours perfecting the perfect class. Then you show up, and half your students look lost while the other half look bored. So you plan even more next time and doubt yourself even more when it still doesn't work perfectly. Here's the truth. You're never going to get 100% of the way there, and that's actually okay. If you think about a standard bell curve, what we're really trying to do in a mixed level class is serve that 80% in the middle. The 10% on either side, they're not necessarily the best fit for your all levels class. The true beginners might benefit from a beginner series or from private lessons. The very advanced students, you could sell them a private lesson to work on their arm balances. But that 80% in the middle, that's your sweet spot. And when you focus on serving almost everyone instead of absolutely everyone, everything gets easier. You stop putting the weight of the world on your shoulders. You stop feeling like you're trying to do brain surgery or land a jet airliner. You remember that you are there to serve your students, not to be perfect for them. Let me paint a picture you might recognize. You spend more time planning your class than it takes to teach it. My running partner, Patty, used to say she wouldn't drive to a race if it took longer than the race itself. She wouldn't go to a 5K that was more than 30 minutes from her house. I think that's a pretty fair rule for class planning, too. It shouldn't take longer to get ready than to be there. But here's what happens instead. You overplan because you're terrified. You spend hours trying to control the controllables. You wind up with pages of notes trying to account for every possible scenario, every possible student need. Then you show up to class, your critical brain kicks in, and you lose your words. Maybe you forget what pose comes next, or you blank on the word chaturanga and find yourself saying, well, you're starting to bend your elbows and keeping your chest as high as your hips and blah. We've all been there. I've definitely been there. Then you get disincentivized to plan, so you stop planning altogether. You start winging it. Then you show up feeling like a fraud because you haven't prepared adequately. You become trapped in this downward spiral of confidence. The more you doubt yourself, the more you plan. The more you plan, the more overwhelmed you feel. The more overwhelmed you feel, the more you doubt yourself. It's a vicious cycle. But what if there was a framework that could break this cycle? What if you could walk in with a solid plan that you have practiced in your own body, that you can adapt and tweak based on who shows up, and set out as a buffet of options for your students? That's where the choice becomes up to them, not up to you. You're not micromanaging their experience. You're not trying to create the perfect moment for every single person in the room. They get to choose. They get to build their own dessert plate. Or think of it like a taco bar. Are they putting on radishes, avocado? Which salsa are they choosing? Hot sauce, mild? They get to choose what goes on their taco. The weight of creating the perfect experience isn't all on your shoulders. Or think about when you host a dinner party. You don't force feed your guests. You set out a beautiful spread and let them serve themselves what appeals to them. Same concept here. Before we dive into the framework, I want you to remember something crucial. You are the guide and your students are the heroes. This is a fundamental mindset shift that changes everything. Once we drop that sense that we are the center of our yoga classes and start to realize that each precious student in front of us is the center of their own yoga journey, everything gets easier. You're not there to perform. You're not there to prove how much you know or how flexible you are or how many Sanskrit words you can pronounce correctly. You're there to hold space for their heroic journeys. That feeling of imposter syndrome you might have, it actually means you care. Nerves mean you are invested in offering your best, but you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be present and willing to serve. True advanced students, and I mean truly advanced, not just people who can do fancy poses, they know they can modify the practice. They know what to do. They've been practicing for years. They know the value of simplicity and the importance of breaking down basics for newer students. If these folks are in your class, they're not there to judge you the way you think they are. They're coming to class to let somebody else drive the bus for a while. Even if they're yoga teachers themselves, they want to turn off their critical thinking brain and just enjoy the practice. It's often those intermediate students, the ones attached to making Instagram-worthy shapes, who might seem demanding. But the really advanced students, they're going to be your biggest supporters, your most loyal students, because they understand what you're doing up there. So how do we actually do this? I have a framework I call SERVE. It's designed to help you focus outward on your students instead of inward on your own anxiety. The S is for structure. Structure your class based on sound physiological principles. I teach something I call the 642 framework. Now, in your 200-hour yoga teacher training, you probably learned a lot about anatomy and pathology. What muscles do what might go wrong with the human body. Maybe you had to memorize contraindications or learn long lists of what not to do. That approach can feel pessimistic and it can freeze you in place. It's terrifying. It's like learning to cook by studying food poisoning. Instead, I suggest we focus on physiology and kinesiology, how your body moves in space and how it adapts to training. This is the optimistic side of yoga teacher training. This is about what your body can do, how it grows, how it adapts. 642 framework. The 6 is 6 moves of the spine. Remember from your training the 3 planes of movement? The sagittal plane divides your body left to right. That's flexion and extension. The frontal plane divides your body front to back. That's side bending. The transverse plane divides your body top to bottom. That's rotation. So the 6 moves are spinal flexion, spinal extension, side bending to each direction, and rotation to each direction. Sound familiar? That's your warm-up where you do cat-cow, some kind of lateral child's pose or side bend, and threading the needle twist to either side. When we move the spine in these 6 directions, we are creating a framework for balanced movement. We get to take the body through every plane of movement. The 4 is 4 lines of the legs, something I kind of made up, but it works. Front line, back line, inner line, and outer line. This ensures you're not always teaching narrow stance poses facing the short edge of your mat. Sometimes you're facing the long edge with feet wide, working the adductors and abductors. The 2 is 2 core modes. Your core musculature can either be working to stabilize the relationship between your spine and pelvis while other things move, like plank with a leg lift or bird dog, or your core muscles can be articulating movement of your spine, like cat-cow. I also like to think in 4 quarters of class. Mat work at the beginning, standing poses in the 2nd quarter, back down to the mat for core and hips in the 3rd quarter, then finishing poses and final relaxation in the 4th quarter. This framework helps you create balanced, effective classes quickly without having to reinvent the wheel every single time. When you use this structure, you can include almost everyone because the framework itself is comprehensive and adaptable. The first E in SERVE is experience the sequence yourself before you serve it. This is like any good cook taste testing before serving guests. You wouldn't just throw ingredients together and serve them without knowing how they taste, right? This gives you a chance to feel the sequence in your own body first and really embody it, rather than having it live just up in your head as an intellectual exercise. Even if it's just 20 minutes before you leave for class, run through your sequence yourself. Feel how the transitions land. Notice what's challenging, what's soothing, where you might need to offer options. This is how you really smooth out your teaching. You design it on paper, then you get down on your mat and practice it. This builds what I call embodied knowledge rather than just theoretical understanding. When you've felt it in your own body, you can cue it authentically. You know how long to hold poses because you felt when they start to get challenging. You understand the transitions because you've moved through them yourself. The R in serve is to repeat your sequences with purpose. Repetition is the key to learning. Repetition is the key to learning. Repetition is the key to learning. And repetition serves both beginners and advanced students beautifully. For beginners, it gives them a chance to feel successful and actually learn the fundamentals instead of constantly being thrown new information. For advanced students, repetition gives them a chance to tune into the subtleties, the fluctuations of the mind, chitta vritti, the quality of their breath, the micro movements that create stability. Repetition isn't making your class boring. It's giving your students a dependable foundation so they can trust your teaching and trust their bodies, trust their practices. They don't have to be thinking so hard about what goes where and what comes next. They can actually drop into the present moment because the framework is familiar to them. What I do now is teach the same lesson plan all month long. I change things up a little week to week. That's where the variation comes in. But the foundation stays consistent. Confidence, both for you and for your students, comes from repetition. If you're taking more time to plan your class than you are to teach it, you're probably relying too much on variety and not enough on repetition. Speaking of variety, though, the V in serve stands for vary, but vary with intention. That's what we're going to spend time on today as we come to discuss the layer cake approach. We're not talking about change and variety for the sake of variety. We're talking about purposeful adaptations so people can get what they need and stay engaged. We vary so students can feel things differently week to week without completely reinventing the wheel. And the second E in serve stands for evolution. Evolve your authentic voice. This happens as your confidence builds, as you give yourself permission to be human, to change your mind, to keep growing. I've been teaching yoga since 2003. That's over 20 years now, and I am still learning, evolving, and growing. I am still changing things. I only got to this place of realizing I didn't have to come up with a brand new sequence every time within the last 2 years or so of my teaching career. 2 decades to get here, and I'm still evolving. This isn't fixed in stone. It's a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset. And serving your students is how you develop your unique voice. Now let's go deeper into that V, vary with intention. I want to teach you my layer cake approach to creating options that serve almost everyone. Visualize a beautiful layer cake. You've got layers of sponge cake with layers of frosting in between, and typically there's something on top, sprinkles or some kind of garnish that adds texture and visual appeal. In a layer cake, the cake itself isn't the sweetest part. It's medium sweetness. The frosting brings extra sweetness, and the sprinkles, they bring a little crunch, a little contrast, maybe even a little spice if you're feeling adventurous. Now, if you've been in my world for a while, you know I don't love calling things beginner or advanced. We could probably fit this layer cake framework into that language. The cake is beginner, frosting is intermediate, sprinkles are advanced, but I prefer different terms. I use sweeter and spicier as options. Here's why. An advanced practitioner might be nursing an injury, or might have already done 3 hours of exercise that morning, or might just be tired today and want the sweeter option. Meanwhile, someone newer to practice might have natural ability, might be an athlete in another sport, might just be having a high energy day and want to go for the spicier option. Spicier isn't necessarily better. Just like when you're making salsa from fresh peppers, even peppers from the same plant, growing on the same branch, can have different levels of heat. One side of the pepper might be spicier than the other side in an individual pepper. It's all about individual tolerance and preference. So here's how layer cake works. Layer 1 is the cake base, the foundational shape that everyone can do safely. This isn't beginner, it's essential. For Warrior 1, the base, the cake base, would be 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. That's it. Everyone is experiencing this fundamental relationship of the legs, regardless of how far apart their legs are or what they're doing with their arms. Then layer 2 is the frosting. There are multiple ways to experience the same pose. This is where we could expand and contract, where we might offer different home bases, maybe hands to hips instead of overhead, maybe using the wall for support, maybe taking the pose for 3 breaths instead of for 5. Think about eating cake at a fancy bakery. Some people scrape around the frosting because it's too sweet for them. They just want the cake. Others, like one of my daughters, eat all the frosting and leave the cake behind because they're only there for the sugar. Others eat the whole thing as presented. All valid choices. Layer 3 are the sprinkles, the spicier variations for those wanting more intensity or texture contrast. Maybe the back heel lifts from Warrior 1 into a crescent lunge. Maybe the arms reach overhead with a back bend. Maybe we add a twist. But here's the key. We don't present this as the best way or the ultimate expression or someday you'll get here if you practice hard enough. It's just a choice. It's something you can choose to experience or not, like choosing whether to eat the sprinkles on your cake. The secret ingredient in all of this is purposeful adaptation. We're not layering on every single variation we've ever learned in every workshop we've ever taken. That comes from ego, trying to prove we belong in the front of the room, trying to show how much we know. We don't want to overload our students with information. We're not giving them 20 different cakes to choose from. We're giving them one beautiful slice of cake, a way to make it sweeter if that's what they need today, and a way to make it spicier if that's what calls to them. 2 or 3 options, that's it. Clean, clear, purposeful. Let me show you how this works with some specific poses you probably teach regularly. Cat and cow. The cake base is spinal articulation, that beautiful joint-by-joint movement that lubricates the spine and gives the small muscles a chance to work. Everyone gets this benefit. To make it sweeter, maybe someone has sensitive knees, so you offer a blanket underneath. Maybe they have wrist sensitivity, so they can take forearms to blocks. Maybe they can't get down on the floor at all, so they take a standing version of cat-cow. To make it spicier, add arm and leg extensions. Reach one arm forward, extend the opposite leg back, or both at the same time. Maybe we add some holds or pulses. Your cuing might sound like, we're moving into cat-cow, articulating through the spine. If you need support for your knees, grab a blanket. If your wrists are sensitive today, you can take forearms to blocks. If you'd like to add some challenge, you can extend an arm or leg as you move. Threading the needle. The cake base is rotation in the transverse plane, that beautiful spinal twist that most bodies crave. To make it sweeter, take the twist from your belly instead of from table. This is easier on the knees, but actually gives you better spinal contact, so it might feel stronger in the upper back. Or take it from child's pose, if that's where your body wants to be today. To make it spicier, extend your top leg. Add a bind with the top arm. Maybe play with lifting the arm that's threaded through. Notice how each option serves a purpose. The belly version isn't easier, it's different. It might actually be spicier for your upper back while being sweeter for your lower body. Or in Warrior 1, the cake base is that fundamental lunge relationship, 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. To make it sweeter, hands on hips instead of overhead. Widen the stance, use the wall for support, hold for fewer breaths. To make it spicier, lift the back heel into a crescent lunge, add a back bend, hold longer, maybe add some movement flowing between straight and bent front leg or doing lat pull-down actions with your arms. Here's how you might cue it. Come into Warrior 1, 1 foot forward, 1 foot back. You can keep your hands on your hips, or if you're feeling steady, reach your arms overhead. If you want to add some heat, lift your back heel. Find what serves your body today. That's maybe 60 words total. You've given clear options without overwhelming anyone, and you've put the choice in their hands. Here are some practical strategies for implementing layer cake in your classes. Number 1, limit your options. 2 or 3 variations are plenty. If you give 17 different options, people will get paralyzed by choice, and you'll spend all your time explaining instead of teaching. Number 2, look at your students. This is crucial. Demo the base pose, then step out and observe. Once you've got eyes on your students, you'll see what options would actually be helpful. If everyone's already gone to the spiciest variation you mentioned, or even one you haven't mentioned, you don't need to offer the sweeter ones. If nobody's taking the spicy option, maybe offer an extra sweet one. Number 3, put the sweetest option last. This is a trick I learned from working with athletes who are going to always presume the last is the best. Instead of saying, if you want to make this easier, do this, try ending with the sweeter option. Human psychology tends to go to the end of the list. So if we make that final option the gentler one, we often serve people better. So instead of Warrior 1, or if it's too hard, hands on hips, try Warrior 1, arms up, or you could add a back bend, or keep your hands down alongside your hips. Make it look like it's harder than it is. Demo and step out. If you're trying to wean yourself off demoing throughout the entire class, this is a great approach. Show the shape, then step out and look at your students. You might say, I'm going to show you the basic shape, then I want to see how this is landing for you. Remember, it's a buffet. You're not force-feeding anyone. You're setting out options and letting them choose what serves them today. If they're full and not interested in dessert, that's fine too. Trust your students. They know their bodies better than you do. Your job is to offer safe, clear options. Their job is to choose wisely from what you've offered. Here is your invisible permission slip, and it's kind of like the gifts the Wizard of Oz gave to the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion. The power was within you all along. You have permission to repeat sequences without being boring. You have permission to serve almost everyone instead of absolutely everyone. You have permission to focus on your students instead of your own anxiety. You have permission to be human and keep learning. You have permission to set out a buffet instead of force-feeding perfect experiences. You have permission to trust that your students can make good choices for themselves. And you have permission to evolve your teaching voice over time instead of having it all figured out right now. Teaching yoga isn't brain surgery. You're not landing a jet airliner. Nobody is judging you the way you think they are. You're there to serve your students, and service is about offering what's helpful, not about being perfect. When you start to focus outward on your students instead of inward on your own process, everything gets easier. You're setting out a beautiful dessert buffet, and they get to choose what appeals to them today. Some days they'll want just the cake. Some days they'll go for all the frosting. Some days they'll want the whole experience with sprinkles on top. All of these choices are perfect for them in that moment. Remember, you become almost everyone's favorite teacher by including almost everyone in class. And that almost isn't a limitation. It's what's going to set you free. The planning confidence cycle that's been exhausting you, you can step out of it. You can create solid, repeatable structures that you modify purposefully based on who shows up. You can trust your students to make good choices from the options you offer. You can focus on service instead of perfection. And in that focus on service, you'll find your authentic teaching voice emerging naturally. Now, go forth and serve. If what you've learned today resonates with you, I would love to invite you to go deeper with me in Mastering the Art of Yoga Sequencing, my 6-month mentorship membership that takes everything we've covered here and gives you the full recipe box. This is my Julia Child-themed yoga mentorship program. Just like Julia learned to cook by working alongside master chefs in French kitchens, you'll learn to sequence by working alongside me and a community of teachers who are all committed to growth. Here's how it works. We follow what chefs call staging. That's spelled like stage, but pronounced stage. It's when apprentice chefs work under master chefs in different restaurant kitchens to learn their systems, develop their skills, and build their confidence. In Mastering the Art of Yoga Sequencing, the mentorship membership, aka 3Ms, you get my complete recipe box of ready-to-teach lesson plans that you can use immediately. monthly live mentoring calls where we workshop your specific teaching challenges so you can help your students to the best of your ability. A beverage cart of over 108 class themes, themed to my books called Teaching Yoga Beyond the Poses, so you never wonder what to say again to create inspiring experiences for your students. You'll get follow-along videos to experience each sequence in your own body first, that first E in the SERVE method. And you'll be welcomed into a supportive community of teachers who understand exactly what you're going through in the classroom. This program breaks the planning confidence cycle by giving you proven sequences to start with, then teaching you how to adapt them, and finally empowering you to create your own signature approach. It's like having a master chef guide you, from following recipes exactly to understanding why ingredients work together to eventually developing your own unique voice. Constitutes half of my 300-hour advanced teacher training, but you can absolutely do it on its own, whether you continue to complete the full 500-hour certification or not. If you're ready to move from cookbook to confident chef in your yoga teaching, click the link in the description or ask me about it in the comments. I'd love to welcome you into this incredible community of teachers who are committed to serving their students with both structure and heart. I hope to see you there.